Hi there and welcome to a new video in which I want to show you how I have been able to create 3 Godot games in less than a week. So these are the 3 games that I created. So the first one is very simple. It's just a 3D obstacle course which it still has like lots of interesting things. I'm going to be showing more in detail each game in a second. I also have this other 2D clicker action game in which the player moves around and basically you kill some slimes, and if a slime touches you, the game is restarted. And lastly, I have here an avoidance game, okay? So once again, let me quickly show it to you. So you basically play, you control this space guy over there, you have 3 lives, and you have to collect the keys, okay? You also have a score counter over there, but there are some obstacles. So if I collide with that obstacle, well, I lose a life. There are also some sound effects, music, etc. But well, I'm just not playing it for the video so that it doesn't disturb us a lot. What I first want to super quickly describe is why is it important to be able to create games fastly. So first of all, it is the possibility to quickly get player feedback and adjust the product as needed. If you just develop a game for a lot of months and you get no real player feedback, okay, it's quite difficult to actually tailor the game for the exact players that you want. Now, this also minimizes risks, because if you are dedicating, I don't know, 1 year to a project and you get no feedback and you publish it, you are actually taking a lot of risks because you have not validated your idea. If you create a minimum viable product, or also called MVP, you publish it and you get some player feedback and all of them tell you that the game is not very good, and you find in the data, in the stats, that also the game is not having lots of retention, for example, well, then you shouldn't move forward with that project and therefore you have minimized the risks. Also, by doing this, what we're going to be doing is learning how to prioritize, and this is super important because if you focus on the core gameplay at first, you will be able to get much more and better player feedback than if you had to create a whole game. And this last point is quite related to the other two, because you can get more feedback, adjust the product as needed, and all that would minimize the risks only if you learn how to prioritize and focus on the gameplay at first. In all of these games, okay, the most complex one is possibly this 3D obstacle course, but it still has like the core on the the focus on the core gameplay. It is completely playable with no significant errors. Okay, you can complete a level. Okay, so if you collect all these coins, you basically complete the level. It also has some, maybe not extra things, but things that are not part of the core gameplay itself. You do have some pretty interesting UI, some buttons, a main menu, etc. So this is actually the last of the 3 games, so that's why it was a little bit more polished than the rest. But you can see it still lacks visual effects, sound effects even, because I wanted to focus more on the core gameplay. I still managed to add a sky because that was just basically downloading an asset and loading it in, so it was quite simple. And you can also lose if you fall out, for example. So here you can actually see everything that we have been talking about: learning how to prioritize, learning how to create something easy but that is still playable, etc. Of course, this is just one example. To make it just to make it clear, this is of course not something that you can publish, and probably lots of people, if you publish something like this, are going to hate you. This is something just for a course of mine, okay, of Godot, okay, that I'm actually that I have actually created a couple of months ago. And by the way, right now the original price is $45, but right now we are going to be able to get it for just $10. As you can see, it's a limited time offer, so you really have to hurry. Once again, the link is in the description down below. So, and here I applied all these techniques. The game is not that polished. Let me actually show you a quick video of the game. It's quite simple. It still has some visual effects, some more polish behind, but it's not like a super long course of more than 20 hours or something like that. I did commit the mistake of creating a much longer course and it didn't perform that well. And it's a huge course that I know it has a lot of value, but for different reasons it hasn't been that successful. This is a 20.5 hour Unity course. Once again, here there is a game, there is a much more polished game. This is a complete 2D RPG game. It basically has different weapon types, different enemies, lots of effects, lot of sound effects. It is super polished. And here, basically, what happened is that I took a lot of risk in this specific project. Okay, I took a lot of risks because I was pretty convinced that it was going to perform well, but it didn't. So if I had created a Unity course much shorter, maybe of something like 5-6 hours, as the Godot course that I showed you, which is 6 hours long, I would have I wouldn't actually have lost that much time, okay, in doing that. I could have created just one 6-hour Unity course. I would have seen that maybe it was successful or not, and based on that I could have created more 6-hour Unity courses, or I could have just focused on Godot. So here you can start to see how all these points start to connect each other. And you can also see how this can also be applied to anything, whether you want to create games for courses, whether you want to create games for a company, for clients, for your own, for another studio with which you are going to be testing the game with ads or whatever. So trust me that once you understand these keys, it is quite maybe easier to get to succeed in anything. And now, before finishing with this, I want to give you 5 simple steps to create more and better games in less time. And once again, remember, these games can be used for literally anything: courses, your own studio, a studio of other people, etc. So the first one is to have a clear game design. And with this, you don't have to be a professional game designer or anything like that. It can be as simple as just putting a reference, declaring your game over condition, your win condition, your game loop, and any kind of extra comments. Or you can even make it a little bit bigger and include more information, such as an elevator pitch, a genre, unique selling point. You can pause the video and look at these sections better if you really want to, or even take a screenshot right over there. It's quite simple, as you can see, and this will really help you focus on the core gameplay. Here I have no extras or no. Maybe here I do have a section for extras, but I don't have 100 extras. Maybe I just have 1 or 2 things that I really want to highlight. Because basically having a clear game design will allow you to only focus on the core of the game, which is the most important thing for when you want to succeed in courses, game development itself, for companies, yourself, etc. Now let's look at the second one, which is look for the assets. There is no time to waste. To find these assets, you can find the websites such as Kenny, where if you go to assets, well, you are going to be finding lots of assets from 2D, 3D UI, audio, pixel, textures, etc. Also, you can look in itch.io. So basically here we have a specific section for game assets. You can even look for free assets if you want to, and specific asset types. You also have Mixamo, once again, for 3D models, but more specifically in order to rig these characters and to be able to quickly use some pre-made animation. So this really saves a lot of time and work. And to get sound effects, I tend to use free sound or even itch.io itself. Once again, we're trying to focus on what really matters and what really makes the difference between a hit and a failure. And 99% of cases, it's not because you have bad assets. You have to have some visuals that do serve you as exactly that, as visuals that are good enough for a game to be able to work and that everything looks, let's say, correct. 3. You have to break down the different tasks you have to do in order to complete the project. And also you have to set a deadline for each of them. For this, you can use an application such as Notion, okay, but in reality, there are lots of them that are pretty similar. So for example, in this case of creating my own course, this can be quite similar to literally anything. So here I have the different things that I have to do. I have to define a title. I have to define the different games. I have to define the introduction, the conclusion. I have to create game 1, game 2, game 3. I have to define the activities for the course. This is the same thing. Have a backlog of the different things you have to do. And you don't really have to make a complex database or anything like that. You can just add a new page, call it to do, for example, or anything like that. You can add an icon, so check or whatever. And you can even look for some stock photos over here. So change, unsplash, and to do list or something like that. You can either reposition it a little bit, maybe something like that. And here, as you can see, in a matter of seconds, you now have a to-do list. So quite simple, just /to do, and there you have it. So for your game, you may need to design it. Then once you have this, look for the assets, etc. And all the time you can set a deadline for this. You can use a calendar view, so /calendar view, and create a new empty database. Okay, and say, okay, for this day, okay, this must be finished. I know, look for assets. Okay, and like this, you have. Of course, it's a pretty maybe bad way of doing it, but it is just for you to understand this system. I have a much more complex database and system behind it, but just for you to get started, it is more than enough. And then the fourth step is to get to code while focusing on the core. Once again, using all these tools and everything that you have learned in this video, get to code and focus on the core. That's what really will make the difference. And lastly, you just have to test the game, listen for feedback, and repeat this cycle over and over again. So as I mentioned, this is my own Godot course. You can buy it with the link in the description down below. As you can see, it has a lot of reviews, amazing reviews, more than 30 students, so you will be satisfied with this course 100%. Its original price is something like $45, but using the link in the description down below, and if you are fast enough, you're going to be able to get it for just $10. Once again, this is a limited time offer, so if I were you, I would really hurry up. Link in the description down below, enroll right now, and I will see you there.